one of those shirts with no collar that you got for Christmas?
This is a band collar, and I get these made custom from a website that should pay me for a mention.
Yeah, I think.
They should.
Yeah.
I am the #1, I would say, band collar shirt wearer on sports television.
Yeah, that is what raises the question. Has it caught on? Has anybody else tried to get on because he was on?
Some people are not appreciated in their time.
Has a single person said to you, where did you get that?
Galileo was once persecuted.
Did he say to you, where did you get that?
We got a name. Antonio Brown, Bomani Jones, because the star receiver didn't play against the Bengals after reportedly feuding with Big Ben. And then he missed 3 practices in the days before. And today, Mike Tomlin said there is certainly a point where such talent becomes not worth the trouble. And now he's going crazy on the internet. So should Pittsburgh just trade him at this point?
Yeah, if they can. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody that's going to take him, but I don't know what the deal is necessarily. But if you feel like this dude quit before a game you needed to win to make the playoffs, which is what appears to be the case with Pittsburgh, that Brown told them that he was hurt and got a day off, and then they sent him for an MRI. There's questions as to whether he actually got the MRI and everything else. Hey, man, if this is where it is, this ain't the dude that you can keep around under those circumstances. He does not suffer in silence.
I would say that Antonio Brown is the best player on this team. He is talent that you have to keep at any cost. But he's making it real hard on this organization, Bo. Ben Roethlisberger is 36. Antonio Brown is about to turn 32. Antonio Brown, it feels like he's having a midlife crisis. It feels like he's warring with his teammates over credit. He's warring with Ben Roethlisberger over reputation, about appreciation. And Ben Roethlisberger around this time is usually the guy who's undergoing his own midlife crisis. And instead, we have what seems like the makings of a divorce.
Yeah, I mean, look. There was reason to raise the question in the last couple of years whether or not Antonio Brown was legitimately the greatest receiver of all time. Like, he had put up those sorts of numbers. He gave that kind of performance. He put up the numbers this year. Whether he put up that kind of performance, that one is a little bit more debatable. The fact that that's debatable and he's doing stuff like this on the Instagram. Look at this. Mike Tomlin doing a press conference. And if anybody doesn't like Mike Tomlin, it's this guy right here, James Harrison. He's not a fan.
I'm sitting here with my boy. I'm about to go ahead. I'm going to get the exclusive. Y'all stay tuned. We listening to what we listening to right now.
That's the press conference.
We about to do this big interview.
We gonna drop the exclusive. I got it.
What are you doing?
No, Mike Tomlin has said that he could not get in touch with Antonio Brown. It wasn't merely that he disappeared. It wasn't merely that he missed 3 practices. It's that he still has not heard from him, and now he goes on the internet, presumably, or someone tells him, and sees that his star receiver is seemingly either trying to get himself traded or trying to get Mike Tomlin fired. Because those two seem like the main outcomes of a crazy week like this.
Yeah, no, you can't taunt a man like that under these circumstances. There's a certain basis of respect that you would think that somebody would have in a time like this. And who knows, for Antonio Brown, this might just all be funny, right? This all might just be a joke. Just like after a playoff game for Antonio Brown, everybody's locked into one thing. No, I'm going to get on Facebook with everybody and do this now. Maybe he's in a different space, but if he's not in the space that the Steelers are in at this point, they got to find a way to move on. This just does not seem tenable.
No, and it seems like there is depth here. Remember that team MVP award that Juju Smith-Schuster won? Feels a little bit more passive-aggressive at this point. The next name, Cliff Kingsbury. According to Charles Robinson of Yahoo, the Cardinals and Jets are, quote, expected to conduct formal interviews with Kingsbury for their openings, end quote. So, Bo, should the NFL want the recently fired Texas Tech head coach to be a head coach in their company?
No, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, the argument that you can make for hiring Cliff Kingsbury as your NFL head coach, in spite of the fact he was just a head coach at Texas Tech and got fired, would be, well, Texas Tech is a difficult place to win. The coaches they had for the previous 30 years figured out more ways to win than Kingsbury did. So that explanation goes out the window entirely. All I can say is NFL teams have no idea how to find a coach that is capable of leading a franchise because there is no system whatsoever to choosing this. And what's happened now is, you know what you need? A really great offensive mind to be your head coach. Y'all got a job for that. It's called offensive coordinator. It already got the word in it.
That is my question. How is Cliff Kingsbury only taking interviews at the head coaching level? Because I'm not like a big Mike McCarthy fan, another name that's been rumored for these jobs. But if you told me Mike McCarthy is head coach and this dude with the sunglasses on is your OC, maybe that's something sensible. But it feels, Bo, like the copycat league is looking at a Sean McVay, looking at a guy who, handsome, nice hair, can scheme guys open, and they're thinking to themselves, well, this is the guy who looks the most like him, and therefore, he's the one.
Dude, that's the thing. Everybody's like, we want to go find another Sean McVay. There's one.
Yes.
Right? They didn't make a bunch of these. This is like, McVay seems to have a mind that is rare. He also had a set of exposures his whole way growing up that is uncommon, as his grandfather was a dude who worked in the league for all these years.
NFL lifer.
Yeah,
yes.
You're not just going to find another one of these dudes. Cliff Kingsbury is not necessarily that guy, because I feel pretty confident saying that if Sean McVay had worked at Texas Tech, they'd have won more games than Cliff Kingsbury did. You'd have been promoting Sean McVay after they went 9-3 or 10-2, not after he got canned.
Right, and I would now ask the question, if we are desperately trying to find offensive creative geniuses, at what point does a team say to themselves, Mike Leach? Because if you're going to go Cliff Kingsbury, I know Mike Leach is an insane type of dude.
There you go.
But the hunger for like Texas Tech creativity, like, is it really that? Is the thirst that real where this guy is a head coach after being fired?
But even without the thirst, just where's the logic, right? Like the idea that we have with Lincoln Riley, where everybody's like, well, whenever Lincoln Riley wants to become an NFL coach, he can. Did you see that defense that his team tried it out there against Alabama? Have you seen the defenses that his teams have tried it out the last 2 years? But you're not talking about making him your offensive coordinator.
No.
You want to give him the whole thing.
The whole job.
Being the head coach is not a strategic position. It's a management position. And people lose sight of that.
So handsome, though.
And his name's LeBron James. On a recent episode of the ESPN Plus show, More Than an Athlete, LeBron got to talking about coming back from a 3-1 deficit and winning the 2016 NBA Finals over the 73-9 Warriors. Let's listen.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
For
That's
so
what
many
I felt.
reasons.
I was super ecstatic to win one for Cleveland because of the 52-year drought. Like, I was ecstatic. Like, obviously, I showed that the first wave of emotion was when everyone saw me crying. Like, that was all for 52 years. Everything in sports was going on in Cleveland. And then after I stopped, I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time.
Oh. LeBron James going with the royal you, talking to himself. And the reason, Bo, this feels jarring is because Michael Jordan does not say this stuff about himself. Michael Jordan is the arguably most titanic ego in sports, nay, human history, but he has never said, I am the greatest of all time. This man is saying that, and this man is deciding to wander into the fray that we're in every day in sports talk, but it feels subversive and it feels bold because hearing him say it feels like it's too much somehow.
Well, here's the thing. The fascinating thing about Jordan is Jordan's never had to say it. We have been here to say it for him. It's the point Jay Donde always makes about Jordan. He's so good at talking about how good he is. It's a rare talent to have there. Now, what I want to know about LeBron when he said that, I bet he felt like that at that moment. Does he still feel like that right now? That's what I want to know.
It's a pretty good argument.
It's not really a good argument because part of the argument involves the idea 73-9, a team that had some weaknesses though, certainly, as we saw. There's a reason they went and got Kevin Durant, right? There's 73-9, and part of the argument is you dug yourself out of a 3-1 hole.
That's right.
The fact that you put yourself in a 3-1 hole in the first place.
Grit.
Look, if he is the number 2 dude behind Michael Jordan, there is no shame in that whatsoever. But we had this massive comeback, meaning you had to go there to compare yourself to a guy who never got to a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. That is not a good argument.
But, Bo, this, to me, is the face of a guy who is comfortable with his legacy. And I don't use legacy very lightly. It's one of those cliches, but I think it actually is the word here. He is confident in a way that young LeBron not. He wasn't, right? Post-decision LeBron was chastened. This LeBron in 2019, 2018 is saying, I'll come out and say it. I'm better than Michael Jordan, and I don't think that that's an unreasonable thing to maintain.
Here's my question for you, though. You say that that is an expression of confidence. You're juxtaposing this against a man who never actually has to say it out loud. Are you sure that him saying it is a statement of confidence? That does not strike me as confidence.
But it strikes me as something that you say if you're prepared to get the backlash. And he knew that backlash was coming. And he wandered out there and said it nonetheless.
Up until the wrong person say something about him saying that, and then we're going to see what it is. Like I say, if he felt that way at that moment when he made that shot or it went through, okay, cool. That's what it is. And if that's what he believes, that's fine. He's wrong, though. He averaged a triple-double
in that series against maybe the best team ever.
I am aware of those things. He's not Michael Jordan. Coming up next, do the Buccaneers want to hire Brian Kelly?
Why would anyone?
Download the High Noon podcast, Bomani's too, and mine. Not Pablo's, though, because he doesn't have one, loser.
Home improvement.
Above the Heineken River deck at Pier 17.
So Antonio Brown's out here on following people on the Instagram. Is that what we got?
Yes, unfollow the Pittsburgh Steelers and follow the 49ers because George Kittle, the tight end, got on Twitter and was like, come over here. And he was like stars in his eyes.
Kyle Shanahan is like, whoa, let's talk first.
First quote. The Buccaneers have interest in Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly. Reported David Haw of 670 The Score in Chicago. So, Bo, would Brian Kelly be a good candidate to lead Jameis Winston and the Bucs?
For who? For what? What is the rationale that we are working with here? There was a moment in the game against Clemson when Notre Dame was getting waxed where the broadcast crew gave Brian Kelly credit for not losing his mind up in here, because he so often would lose his mind. This dude isn't built for a world that involves all the losses that come even for a good team in the NFL. I don't think he's a dude that's built to coach grown men in the way that grown men have to be coached. I don't see it at all.
I am stunned that Brian Kelly went from being shellacked against Clemson to potentially getting a theoretical raise, because in this story, reading into it, they're talking about $10 million for the head coach, head of football operations. A search firm had him on the list. What an amazing industry where you can be terrible and then theoretically become more desirable.
No, again, they don't know how to pick coaches.
No,
just think about
they're
this.
hiring a search firm.
Yeah, think about this generally with the NFL. The two most important positions in an organization, I think we'd all agree, are the head coach and the quarterback.
Yes.
There is no demonstration that teams have any idea how to get it right at either one of those. This whole game is built so backwards where you can't figure out how to get the guys that are, in fact, the most important. Then we get to the idea of Brian Kelly coaching Jameis Winston. How do you think that one's going to go? How do you think that's going to work out? Because Jameis is going to be back next year.
They are theoretically going to bring in Brian Kelly to work for a GM, Jason Licht, who should have been fired, who drafted Jameis, who is now, by the way, on his one-year option deal. Like, does that sound enticing to anybody?
Yeah. Woo-hoo. Good luck, fellas. Quote. Wow, you're really caught up in this Brian Kelly thing. Okay. I am disappointed in the behavior today from TJ Yeldon and Leonard Fournette. They were disrespectful, selfish, and their behavior was unbecoming that of a professional football player. Say Jaguars Executive Vice President Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
Pablo, what was your reaction to this?
My reaction was, as soon as Tom Coughlin got the news that his seat was no longer warm, he went about lecturing some people on chair etiquette. Like, why? This is what they were doing, Bomani Jones. Leonard Fournette and TJ Yeldon. TJ Yeldon, who did not play in that game, who's on an expiring deal. Leonard Fournette, who is hurt, who is not playing in the game at all. Tom Coughlin wanted to immediately announce, just in case you were worried about me, I'm still the same dude. I'm going to get mad at you about stuff.
He publicly scolded them over something that I don't think that people really would have noticed.
No.
The only reason I am at all aware that this happened in the first place is because Tom Coughlin decided that he was going to write this sternly worded letter and then share it with the world. How did they have such a clown show of a season and the head of football ops, the general manager, and the head coach are all going to come back, right? Who might not come back? Leonard Fournette, because the Jags are taking back the guarantees in his contract because of the suspension that he had earlier in the year, which, by the way, is going to lead to more holdouts in the draft because this is something that guys have been holding out before and more will down the line.
And Leonard Fournette has not had a good year, to be clear. There was the running across the field for the fight, suspended one game, there's the injuries and all that. But this is Tom Coughlin saying, you know what's more powerful than anything? Organizational dysfunction and risk aversion, because that's how I still have this job. Last quote. Some people were asking me about what appeals to this job, and I was like, what doesn't? Said new Raiders GM Mike Mayock. Bo, how should Raiders fans feel about this new GM?
All right, to be fair, whoever got hired for that job was just going to be a John Gruden yes man. Like, that is the number one qualification to get a job in a circumstance like the structure they have right now with the Raiders. However, if you are a Raiders fan, you have got a general manager that would have taken Blaine Gabbert over Cam Newton. Now, I have been trumpeting this fact for a long time, and I've been doing it on the internet, and people are like, well, you can't hold it against the man that was his worst mistake. Here's the rationale that he had for why he wouldn't have taken Cam Newton. What it really comes down to is football IQ and work ethic. And if he wants to be the best quarterback in the game, I'm all in. I love it. But something tells me he'll be content to be a multimillionaire who's pretty good, and that doesn't get it done for me. And that would have led that dude to take Blaine Gabbert over Cam Newton, and that's the guy that's now running your football operation. next to the guy who loves the Peterman.
Yes.
This is your brain trust.
They got him, by the way, the Peterman, to a future reserve contract, so he's on the board for next year. But look, Sports Illustrated did have Blaine Gabbert and Jake Locker on the cover behind Cam Newton. Apparently, Ron Rivera said they thought hard about Blaine Gabbert before taking Cam Newton, but the reasoning is indefensible.
That's the issue.
That's the problem. And the good news for the Raiders, though, for those fans, Bo, is that John Gruden just got an excellent PR guy in Mike Mayock, because you and I, you especially, are in the minority in terms of people in our business who revere Mike Mayock.
Yeah, the difference is, though, people pay a lot closer attention to your hit and miss record when you actually have a job than they do when you're on television, right? Ain't hiring Mel Kiper to do this job. They're not hiring, like, this is... They are going to pay attention to what you do at this point. And to me, it is about the logic. What is the thought process that you are going to use? Man, I'm so glad I don't root for the Raiders. They don't even know where they're going to play.
No, the man said, I don't know if I would take Cam because it looks like he just wants to be like a millionaire.
Yes.
And obviously Cam Newton went on to become the guy who sacrificed his body repeatedly for football.
You can't make decisions like that, and apparently he would. Great. Coming up next, Bevo versus Uga. See how that went.
LLC.
Mike Mayock, he did say Khalil Mack should have been the number one pick in the 2014 draft. That was one that he got right. And now he answers to the guy who shipped Khalil Mack out of town. So
That's right.
If Mike Mayock gets it right, he might get overruled.
But, Bo, you have to understand, Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper are not useful to contending teams. Want to rebuild. Today's number, 3. That is the number of minority NFL head coaches that remain after Monday's firings. So, Bo, how big of an issue is this for the league?
Well, I think most of the black coaches that got fired, it was unquestionably defensible that they got fired. Todd Bowles, yes. Marvin Lewis, yes. Vance Joseph, a little shaky, but I see the point. Steve Wilkes gets a little trickier.
That's the one, yeah.
But even still, like each one of those you looked at and it was like, yeah, I see what's going on here. Problem is, there's only 3 left, and I don't think it's that likely that any person of color gets hired in this cycle. And then if you get to the next one where Mike Tomlin and Ron Rivera will both be on fairly warm seats, it's possible when we get to this place next year, there could be one coach of color in the whole league, and that's not good.
Yeah, and Anthony Lynn, by the way, congratulations on being left out of pretty much everybody's Coach of the Year discussions, but there does seem to be a deeper systematic issue at hand. It's not so much let's analyze a given year as a moment in time and see are we outraged or not. It's why isn't the pipeline in the NFL better at producing coaches of color? Mina Kimes wrote a great story in ESPN the magazine about this, pointed out that 114% more likely is a white assistant to make a coordinator job than a coach of color. That seems to be something deeper as opposed to weird headlines right now.
Well, also think about this, and I understand that age is a variable in this comparison that I'm going to make, but the point still remains. Jim Caldwell has been to a Super Bowl. Jim Caldwell had 3 winning seasons out of 4 in Detroit. Cliff Kingsbury, who got fired at Texas Tech just a couple of months ago, will get more phone calls about being an NFL head coach than Jim Caldwell likely will. Think about that for a second.
But how good does Jim Caldwell look while wearing sunglasses?
Tough call. In closing, shout out to the Texas Longhorns for making me legitimately happy for the first time in years. Won the Sugar Bowl last night. And all praises go to Bevo for the big fella set the tone. Let's all watch as you see the difference in purpose and constitution between Debo and Uga. Now, you know Uga. See, the thing about Uga is Uga, little bulldog in a sweater. We all love Uga. We like Uga because he's cute. Bevo ain't there to be cute. Bevo is there to be imposing. That's right.
What?
Bevo. That's right.
How is this allowed? How is that the thing preventing Bevo from running roughshod and impaling that photographer?
Yeah.
2 photographers?
I do feel like there should be more than one person whose job it is to grab Bevo by the horns under that circumstance.
Bo, this is like a drill, and they all failed. Like, what if this went worse? Who is there ready to take Bevo down, God forbid?
I don't know, because we're not in Texas, but with all those people in Texas, somebody keep it on me, as Vince Staples puts it, and they ready to put that big boy down if they got to.
I
just also feel like putting something in a red sweater in front of a big old bovine creature.
That's not
From what
great.
I understand, it's not wise.
Especially when that creature in the red sweater can't really procreate and only lives for an average of 9 years and has breathing problems. Bulldogs, man, they're sad.
That's fine. All of that is cool. This ain't a time to be all sad for the Bulldogs. This is the time to remind people that the Bulldog didn't need to be nowhere near the Longhorns last night. That is what people... And by the way, quickness on Uga's part. I don't think Uga get nearly enough credit for his jump off
The lateral agility there.
Uga was hip to game before just about anybody else was.
What if those horns, though, made contact? Would we would not be doing this story right now? Would that game have been played?
Well, contact with whom? If the horn had made contact with one of those people, the game would probably go on. Had that horn made contact with Uga, we'd have started this show with no music. We'd have come out, it'd have just been a camera.
That's right.
Been a broad shot. I wouldn't be wearing this jacket. It would be a lot more like navy or black.
Tinkling piano.
Yeah, no. Ain't gonna be no music. There's no time for tinkling piano. There's only time for our thoughts of sorrow. Rest in peace, Uga. But Uga didn't really die. You good.
In closing, I really did not want to start the new year by showing you guys this, and it's not least because it rewards everybody who crammed themselves into my mentions over our wonderful vacation. But once again, I feel obligated to clarify that this is not me. Again, this is not me, but let's watch.
Hold on, wait a minute. You telling me that's not you?
I believe you heard what I said.
Wait. That isn't you?
You heard what I said?
So it's just a coincidence that both of y'all...
Yo!
So wait a minute. So it's just a coincidence that y'all both own something in that color and can do that trick?
Well, when I did that trick, Bomani, I swore you to secrecy upon you seeing it. But
I wasn't watching. The streets just know.
But check out, this is why I have to celebrate this man, Kazuhisa. It's this part, right there. It's that. You didn't have to do that, but he did it, and Happy New Year to him.
Highly Questionable is coming up next.
Stop
He's
tweeting
highly
me, though.
questionable
For real,
too.
stop tweeting.